Welcome to Align and Arise, the podcast for wildly ambitious women who want to break free from the struggle, build a life without limits, and create success, wealth, and happiness completely on their terms and with way more than just the money in mind. I'm Abby Rogers, therapist, mentor, and abundance expert, and I'm here to help you create anxiety-free freedom and wealth that aligns with your soul. Let's dive in. Hey, welcome back. Good to see you back again. So today I just want to have a quick chat with you about boundaries and how we can actually do so much better than boundaries. Now, I'm not knocking the idea of boundaries. Nothing wrong with a good boundary treated in the right way. But when they're not treated in the right way, actually, they can end up causing more harm than good. And I wanted to just kind of check in with that today and help you understand how to use boundaries in the best way, and also help you understand how you can get to a place where you don't even really need to be thinking about your boundaries. You're just acting in a way that's true to you and in a way that represents you fully and wholly without you needing to have it all spelled out. So just let's look at boundaries first of all and what we mean by that. Now, boundaries has become such a big buzzword in the last few years, last couple of decades. Literally every time you read anything, anywhere about energy levels or time management, boundaries crops up as the magic solution. It's like the thing that everybody talks about. They are the go-to of every life coach, every mindset coach, every self-help author out there. It's all about the boundaries, people. And as I say, they are brilliant. They're a very, very useful tool, but they're not the whole story. So when we talk about boundaries, what we mean is basically putting rules in place, predefined rules that help you manage the way you respond to people and situations. They can help you ensure that you're treating yourself fairly. They can help you make sure that you're treating others fairly, and they give you a default or go-to way to respond under pressure. And that's the beauty of them, so that you don't accidentally end up compromising yourself or others. You've got, even if your brain's all over the place, you've got this thing that you can say, no, hang on, that's my boundary. I'm going to check in with that. I don't do that. So really useful in that way. Poor boundaries, on the other hand, can mean that you allow others to take advantage of your time, your energy, your resources, your good nature, and they can lead to exhaustion and overwhelm and burnout. Nobody wants to be that person with no control over their time and energy, and just everybody is running all over them and they're just, completely broken. And having worked with a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of high achievers, I've seen that it can be very important to set boundaries in a business and within your life to ensure that you aren't allowing, let's say, business to creep in and affect your personal life. And they can be a very effective tool for people to do that when they struggle to draw the line and when they tend to get drawn into work, like emails pinging in to their inboxes out of hours. Setting a boundary around that and saying, no, I don't check any emails after 7 p.m. can be a really useful thing, depending on how good we are at sticking to it. And they can be really helpful as well to ensure you actually show up and do the things that need to get done to drive profit in your business, rather than doing all the little things that are kind of nice to have but not really helpful. But there are times for sure when sticking too rigidly to those boundaries can actually end up being a detrimental thing. It can be negative for your health and wealth and well-being. So putting it simply, those boundaries can sometimes bite back. And I've got a little story to illustrate. This is kind of how it all came about, really, this talk about boundaries. So I'll share why this popped up for me. So I am very careful with my time. One of my top priorities is always to make sure that I have time to work. And that work time is very precious. It's important to me that it's not wasted and it's used for things that are just productive to my business. So I will never waste my work time on things like domestic duties, painting my nails, or coffee chats that are just obviously can I pick your brains coffee chats. Networking and building wonderful connections is an entirely different thing, but you get quite good at having that radar in place that's around whether this is going to be a mutually beneficial relationship, shall we say. So I have boundaries around that. But earlier this week, my 4-year-old decided that he wanted to walk to nursery instead of riding his bike, which he does every other day. So he dug his heels in over that. And my immediate response was, oh, that's going to be into my time, that's going to be into my schedule. My boundaries response would have been, walking is going to take longer than riding his bike. This is an unnecessary waste of part of my working day. Instead of running alongside his bike, I have to walk to nursery with him too, which means I'm not getting my cardio exercise that I planned. And I need to be home from my run by 9:30, showered and at my desk by 10 and ready to get on with my jobs for the day. Boundaries says, no, this isn't something we can go with. He has to ride his bike to fit into my boundaries and my day. So clearly, if I was working purely on a boundaries basis, I would say no, and I would make sure he understands that my time is precious. Therefore, he doesn't get what he wants. And what the result of that would be is a falling out and a grumpy, difficult child on my hands. Much less pleasant journey to nursery, probably a screaming match before we leave, and a bad start to the day all around, which I would have been very firm in my boundaries. That would have been great, but I don't think I would have liked the outcomes from sticking to those boundaries. The mum guilt, maybe not guilt as such, because I know that really it's fine. Either way, he's going to get to nursery, he's going to have a good day, he's probably going to completely forget about this as a thing anyway. But I would feel sad about that, because I know deep down that that's not how I want my relationship to be. I don't want there to be unnecessary friction in my family dynamics, and I know that it would cause unnecessary anger and resentment. I know it would lead to me starting the day in a bad mood, dwelling on the negatives about my day and losing out on focus and productivity and positivity and creativity as a result of being stressed out over that initial bad start to the day. Maybe even being distracted enough to miss out on things that are important for my business, on the easy wins. Thankfully, what I was able to do instead is check in with my higher executive function, check in with my rational self as to whether this was a good thing to do in this situation. In fact, I didn't even think, where are my boundaries around this? I just had that default response of, oh, this is squeezing my time, and then step back from that for a moment, and I was able to check in with my rational self. And doing that, I discovered that actually the walk will make him happy. That's what he wants. Happy child. Feeling valued, feeling heard means less resultant behaviour, possibly throughout the whole day, possibly even subsequent days, as he'll get it out of his system. He'll realise for himself whether the walk is a good idea or not. Maybe I can help him realise it's less of a good idea in a very gentle and subtle way, which is exactly what happened, because he realised that he got quite tired through walking instead of going on his bike, which was something I talked to him about anyway. And just allowing things to play out to be a lesson for him, rather than shoving it in his face and making things, demanding things that happened my way. Allowing him to come to his own conclusions means happier family, easier flow. So is it really worth the fight? I also rationalised that although it feels like an added pressure, and it's made me go, this isn't great for my working time today, actually the reality is that my brain is massively hyping that up, and it's literally only 5 or 10 minutes of additional time to walk. It's really nothing in the course of a day, but we make that 5 to 10 minutes feel like so much when we think we're going to lose it, don't we? Actually, I can easily fit in another 5 or 10 minutes here and there by just moving my day around slightly. And actually walking with him, chatting with him, enjoying nature, me being in a good place with him on the way will be a great boost for my brain chemistry. So the flow of beneficial brain chemicals like oxytocin and serotonin will massively improve my energy levels, help me be in a way more intuitive, intelligent place throughout the rest of the day for my thinking and my productivity. So easy win there. And the fact of the matter was I could still run on the way back from nursery and actually enjoy it. I could make up for the lost run time by taking a little detour, enjoying a bit of a change of scenery, and arriving at my desk maybe just a little bit later than planned, with my brain buzzing with ideas because I took that run in a happy state of mind. I gave myself permission to have that time anyway, rather than dwelling on an argument. So when I stepped back and did that rational assessment, actually to me it was a total no-brainer. But there was a time in the past when I would have stayed with the initial response, the panic, oh, I'm going to lose my 5 or 10 minutes, and seriously lost my shit over that and the disruption to my routine and my day. And I would have got myself so angry and frustrated over those few minutes. There was a time when I'd have taken that route of most resistance and upset just to be right, just to stick to my guns, just to be the authority in the relationship. There was a time when I'd have stuck to those boundaries like glue, even if deep down I didn't really want to, even if I was kind of hating myself and saying to myself, what are you doing? While I was doing it, while I was sticking to those boundaries so strongly. And I think sometimes we can really do that. We can lean into what we perceive to be the rules and the ways that we should behave against our higher judgment and against our better intuition. And that was a time when I was, on the whole, much less happy and fulfilled and much more stressed. And despite being very keen to control my time, my energy, and what I would and wouldn't accept to the nth degree, I'm not sure all those decisions really were for the best back then. And I think that's the danger with boundaries, is if we are too rigid in implementing them and we take ourselves and our better judgment out of the equation, then we can end up compromising ourselves and actually upsetting our mood, upsetting our emotional balance, upsetting our energy, and making life a whole lot harder for ourselves than it needs to be. And maybe you've noticed that too. So perhaps there are times when you'd like to flex on those boundaries because it would feel really, really good and like the right thing to do, but because you know that flexing would mean breaking some unwritten rule around your self-worth or around the way you represent yourself to your clients or to the world, instead you've dug your heels in and stuck to what you thought was the right choice. Or maybe as an entrepreneur, there have been times when you've really, really wanted to offer something a little bit special, a little bit different, or even, dare I say it, at a reduced price point to a particular client, you know, the cardinal sin of lower prices. And it's felt really right and it's felt really good for you, but your coach has insisted that you stick to very rigid boundaries around those prices and programs, and therefore you haven't felt able to go there. And maybe that's left you feeling a little bit less than comfortable and a bit out of sorts, and like you're not really loving this and having the fun that you should be having in your business. And I think one of the biggest issues I see in the world of business and coaching and personal development and marketing is that people are encouraged to step outside of themselves and rely on rules that are really not set in stone rules at all at the end of the day. They're just what's worked for other people, their frameworks, their ways of doing things. And those things might have worked very well for their coaches, but they don't necessarily gel with them deep down. They don't work for you on a personal level. And this creates huge amounts of resistance and stress. And I think it really is one of the major reasons so many people are stuck in procrastination and overwhelm, because they're trying to force themselves to go down a path that doesn't suit them. And yes, there are sometimes better ways of doing things, and we all need some sort of structure within which to work. But I think that personal autonomy as a person and as a professional is so important to our sense of well-being and satisfaction. And hopefully you've gathered from this today that when we're feeling good and we're making decisions that really connect with what we truly want, then we create so much more room for our own energy and enthusiasm and creativity to naturally flow and bring us everything that we really want. In turn, that automatically, that letting go, not putting pressure on ourselves, automatically improves our perception of the flow of time. It makes us smarter, it makes us more productive, it makes us more efficient, it makes us more available for opportunities that up-level and grow us, and just all around happier bunnies in our lives and businesses. So I don't want you to chuck all your boundaries in the bin and say that's not something I'm ever going to do again, because they are useful, very important tools to have in place. But I would like to invite you to start looking at them a little bit differently, rather than treating them as this rigid set of rules that you follow without ever questioning. Get clear on what's important to you and what you want to protect. Check in with what's really good for you and your most worthy self. Bear that in mind at all times, but instead of having literally a list and treating them as set in stone, allow things to be fluid. Trust yourself to make the right judgment in a situation, depending on what you really want deep down. So be careful to avoid compromising just because somebody else is pushing especially hard, or just because you'd feel guilty if you didn't do the thing. But if it feels good for you, and if it feels like it will bring you the most joy to bend those boundaries a bit here and there, go ahead and do it. It's absolutely fine. Your stress levels and your abundance will thank you for it. And it's so much easier to make those rational executive decisions when we are in a place of great intellectual and intuitive control, when we're calmer anyway. Getting to that really calm place where you can just make decisions without having to check in with anything can mean that you need to do some work on your underlying default emotional reactions and anxiety levels to bring them right down, so that you're just not in that fight or flight place, so that you're just in an easy flow of intuitive judgment, and you're not having your judgment clouded by all the what ifs and all the worry just at the crucial moment in time. So if that is something you need, if you need a bit of help with that emotional and intuitive access, then that's exactly what I do as a therapist for high achievers, entrepreneurs, and nice girls who struggle to say no. And I have a wonderful free e-course that you can take called Worthy, Wealthy and Wise. It's proving really, really popular, and it's on my website, so you can just dive in there, register for it, and instantly start it for free. And it will really just help you get into a calmer, more controlled place where it's easier to access that rational higher self of yours. So jump on to my website, www.abigail-rogers.com, and scroll down and you can find Worthy, Wealthy and Wise, and jump straight in there. And of course, feel free to reach out and let me know if you've enjoyed today's episode. And of course, I would love you to subscribe. That would be amazing. See you next week. Take care.